Well, hello everybody. How are all of you doing today? I trust that each of you are doing very well. And I tell you, I'm doing well too. Enjoying this fabulous day and what a lovely day it is. I would first like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me this opportunity to be with you on today. It means the world to me. It absolutely does. And I would like to welcome all of you to another episode of the Brother Henry and You Show. I tell you, it is truly an honor and a privilege to be able to come into your presence on today. And I consider it a joy just to have this opportunity to fill in for Brother Henry. And I tell you, I am truly grateful that he asked me to do this for him. And I want him to know how much I appreciate it. I am so grateful. And to be able to spend this time with you really means a lot. Now, if you missed the show on last time, well, I'm sorry that you did. But we certainly had a real good show. And I anticipate us having a really good show today as well. And so with that being said, we're going to jump right into today's subject, which is what is normal? That's what we're trying to figure out on today. What is normal? Now, one thing that I can tell you is that what may be considered normal for some may not necessarily be considered normal for others. In the first place, what society considers normal is not necessarily normal. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there right now. And you know, there are a multitude of things that certain segments of society may deem as normal or acceptable that may not be, by some people's standards. Now, we know that in the religious world, they have their own set of standards and norms, things that they may consider as normal. But let me tell you this, what the church and what religious people may consider as normal may not necessarily be normal either. Because I can tell you from firsthand experience that the vast majority of the things that take place in church with regards to some of the things that they teach and preach and believe, well, let me just go ahead on and tell you, a lot of that stuff has left me scratching my head on many occasions. I mean, some of that stuff is just absolutely ridiculous, what they say and the things that they try to convince people of and persuade people to believe and stuff. I mean, it's it's downright ridiculous. But on the other hand, there are different things that we see take place in society, in the secular realm that you know, certain people of the population segments may consider as normal, but it's nah. I say, now they said what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yeah, that may be the case sometimes, but it depends on what it is. And it also depends on what type of goose you're talking about. Because what's good for one goose may not be good for another. And that's if you consider yourself a goose. So I tell you what, we're just gonna go ahead and have a little short discussion, and you tell me at the end, or tell Brother Henry when he comes back, what you feel is normal and what is abnormal. in your own personal life. How about that? What is normal? What does it mean to be normal? Are there certain rules and regulations one must abide by? How can we experience the best that life has to offer if we are constantly concerned about whether or not we are breaking the rules? Certainly, rules are good to have, and they can definitely be effective in helping to keep things under control. But the question is, are rules normal? And there are all kinds of rules that we have to abide by, no matter where we are, whether at work or at school. Um, if we're traveling, like flying on an airplane, riding a bus, if we're going to a concert in a certain venue or something, if we're having a gathering, a social gathering at a particular place, if we rent a banquet hall or something, there are rules in place that we have to govern ourselves by. And if we don't do so, then we'll find ourselves in some hot water. So, rules are good in their place. And, everyone's rules are different. It may be normal for those people or for that organization. But for people who are not accustomed to following those type of rules, then that may come across as abnormal. So again, we're trying to figure out what is normal. So again, we ask, what is normal? Exactly what does it mean for a person, place, or thing to be normal? First, let us define the word normal. Normal means conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected. And when we're children, when we're growing up, early in life, the people around us, whether it be our parents or grandparents, other relatives, babysitters, and then once we enter the school setting, we have our teachers and our principals and stuff. Early in life, we start learning what it is that is considered normal and what is considered to be abnormal. Whether it be certain behavioral standards, and a certain way to act, how we carry ourselves, the type of attitude we display, words that are appropriate for us to say and words that are inappropriate. They start teaching us these things early on, and they want to instill these standards into us early because they know that if they wait until we get to be teenagers and approaching young adulthood, well, basically it's too late. Our own individual personality is already set. And I think that adults like to mold children into what they think they should be, and I think that's the case in all aspects of society, no matter what the ethnicity, nationality, what country you live in. It doesn't matter. Everybody has their own way of doing and what's considered normal for them, but it may not be considered normal for someone who's of another ethnicity or another culture. Because remember, you have different cultures and nationalities and stuff, and what's normal in one culture may not be normal in another. So now, when when a thing is normal to some person or a group of people, they're content with it. But you may have another group that comes along that may not be content with it. they'll have a serious problem. Now, another definition of normal: the usual, average, typical state or condition. All that is compiled together in what defines something that's normal. Usually, when something or someone falls into the category of normalcy, it or they tend to never deviate from what has been prescribed as proper, natural, or customary. And let's just talk about here in America for a moment. Here in this country, there are certain things that that are considered to be normal. Like saying the Pledge of Allegiance and singing the national anthem and putting your hand across your chest, or if you're a man, you take your hat off, to salute the country and show respect for the national anthem as it's being sung or played. Those are some of the things that are considered normal. And but what if you're not one of those people who believe in that kind of stuff? Like, what if you don't believe in the Pledge of Allegiance? You don't want to pledge your allegiance to the American flag because the American flag may not mean anything to you. Or you don't want to sing the national anthem because the anthem doesn't mean anything to you because you may not be from this country. Well, you have folks who will look at you crazy and they'll think something is wrong with you. I mean, but we have to respect one another's, customs and their beliefs because we're all different. On the other hand, there are occasions when certain people, places, or things do come across as being abnormal. Now, what are some of those people, places, and things? Now, here are some examples of what is considered normal, especially here in this Western Hemisphere. The nuclear family, which consists of a mother and father and their children. Oh, they say that's normal. It's the perfect family. It's the God-ordained family. And the Lord blesses such family because it's normal. And that's by biblical standards, according to what is taught. Masculinity. Yeah. Being a man, a man that acts like a man. And then femininity, women who behave as women. That's considered normal. Eating turkey and dressing on Thanksgiving. That would be considered normal. Putting up Christmas decorations, at Christmas time, that's considered normal. And driving at the speed limit, that would be considered normal. Going to church on Sunday, if you're a Christian, those are some of the things that are considered normal, especially here in the West. But now, let's go over some things that would be considered abnormal, something that is, unorthodox and something that doesn't sit well with a lot of people because of how they were brought up, and what they were taught and what was instilled in them from early childhood. Okay, now, how about this here? Two men or two women raising children. Same-sex couples by certain segments of society, especially in the religious circle, that would be considered abnormal because they would say that that's not ordained by God. They'll say something like, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And then, okay, now how about this? Girly men and butch like girls. The girly men, they may refer to them as a sissy or Y'all forgive me for this term now, a faggot. Oh, and see, I can testify to a lot of that because, when I was growing up, they called me all kind of sissies and faggots and punks and all that kind of stuff because I was considered abnormal. I wasn't like all the other boys growing up. I was different. I wasn't necessarily into sports and things like that. And all that, the wrestling and tussling and stuff. I was considered abnormal. And some of you may have been the same way. But then girls who have more boy-like character traits, they would refer to them as a tomboy. And then here, where I grew up in this area, they had it bad about calling them a dyke. Man, I tell you, every time I heard that, I just wanted to throw some upside their head. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's bad how society has this thing all screwed up. Things that are, that they feel people ought to do or shouldn't do. And they look sideways at folk who are different. Because for the most part, people fear what they don't understand. And they definitely have a problem with things or people that are different. Going trick-or-treating in February. Now, we know that's abnormal because Halloween is not in February. That's Valentine's Day in February. Then speeding down the street. Well, we know that's not normal because everybody should want to be safe going down the street at all times because there are laws we have to abide by, rules when we drive. Kissing the supervisor in the mouth. Now that's definitely abnormal because who in the hell gonna want to kiss their supervisor unless something else going on? But anyway, it's abnormal. So let's just close it out by saying that being normal means different things to different people. The best thing for any of us to do is to find what works best for us and stick with that. And like I said earlier, what works for some may not work for all, because everybody is different. And we have to respect one another's differences, regardless of what they are. And I think that by respecting one another's differences, we can learn to appreciate them. Because that's what makes up this world. Differences, differences in people and behaviors and lifestyles and beliefs, religion, politics. If everybody was the same thing, believed the same way, lived the same way, did the same thing, this would be such a boring world. And I'm telling you, it would be awful. It would be totally uncomfortable to dwell in. So feel free to share your thoughts on this subject here. What is normal? And what do you consider normal? I tell you, because it's something to think about. It really is. So on that note, I would like to say a very heartfelt thank you. And I mean that with all sincerity. Thank you so very much for having me as the guest host on the Brother Henry and You show. I certainly enjoyed myself with you. And please tune in again next time when there will be another good subject of discussion. And whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be real good. So, but in the meantime, I would like to invite you to follow me on my different platforms. You may find me on Facebook at Taron Jerone Harris. You can find me on YouTube, Taron Jerone Harris. And I do a little podcast on there through my YouTube channel, which is called TJ's Topics. You can find me if you go to my channel, all my little videos and my weekly discussions, and I really enjoy talking to my followers and everybody else. You can follow me on Instagram at TJ Harris 1979, And finally, you can follow me on TikTok, Taron Jerone Harris. And I really do appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you again soon, okay? So thank you one more time for tuning in to another episode of the Brother Henry and You Show. And until we meet again, this is Taron Jerone Harris. And I would like to remind all of you that every round goes higher and higher. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.